In an ideal world, I would be sipping on this throughout the podcast and you would have your chai and we could be having chai together, but I finished my chai. It was really good though. Hello everyone, welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Chai with Chhavi. This will be the first season of Chai with Chhavi on YouTube. And I am so excited to be doing this. I want to use this season to talk a little bit about the books I'm reading, the lessons I'm learning. I feel like there are so many amazing things, amazing ideas, concepts that I've come across through the different videos I watch, the books I read, the self-development programs that I've been doing, the discussions I've been having. And this, I hope, will not only help me during times that I may need it in the future, but also anyone else who's watching this right now who may feel stuck or just may need a little push forward. I am super excited for today's topic, which is putting yourself out there, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Now, I know that it is extremely intimidating to put yourself out there. Trust me, this is like my 4th take of this video because I was psyching myself out, but you know, there's only so much that you can accomplish if you stay in your comfort zone. Growth lies beyond the comfort zone. I feel like, especially nowadays with the world that we live in, we see so much perfection online. We see so many talented people online. And at the same time, we also see a lot of criticism online. And with those two things combined, it can be extremely scary to do new things or to make a mistake or feel like maybe the content you're putting out is less than perfect. You guys have to realize that no one starts off being perfect. You know, even some of the people that we admire today who are extremely talented in their crafts, they started off somewhere and maybe they weren't perfect, but you can see how they grew over the span of their career. And it's just, I think that's just something that's so important to keep in mind. Like, so many of us don't take risks because we're scared of being imperfect or we're scared of the criticism that will follow. I've actually been reading this book. My best friend Ali Sutton gifted me this, and it's called Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And I want to read to you an excerpt that I've been giving a lot of thought to. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So this quote is by Theodore Roosevelt. It was from his speech, Citizenship in a Republic. Do you guys remember that movie, A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff? That was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I remember that there's this one scene at the end where I think like there was a guitar in the diner that Hilary Duff was working in. It was her father's diner, and something happens and it falls off, and there's this quote and it says, "Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game." Like, you are only going to learn by experience and by doing something. I have seen this in my life so many times. I am definitely guilty of this, by the way. It's so much safer to just read and like absorb knowledge in that text sense and feel like you're learning. But until you're actually out in the arena, experiencing things, trying things, learning from trial and error, the lessons don't really stick. I'll give you another example. When I was doing my pageant, of course, the first year I competed, I knew nothing about pageantry. Zero knowledge. I just decided, hey, let me just try this out. I've been modeling a little bit. How hard can it be? I didn't know what I was doing. But I do think that not knowing what I was doing kind of helped me in a way, because it kept me from being in my head. It kept me very present. I went through all emotions, and I was like my mindset was, what's the worst that can happen? Either I do well and I win the pageant. By the way, this was Miss New Jersey Teen USA. That was the very first time I competed. And my mindset was, either I will win or I won't win and nothing will change. I'll stay exactly where I am. So when you kind of approach life in that way, I think like when you take down the stakes, or when you stop putting something on a pedestal, it makes it a lot easier to execute. I had this one friend a few years ago who told me that he really wanted to get into travel vlogging. And I loved his videos. I thought he was really great at doing videography, and he just had this eye, but he wouldn't put his content out. And I would ask him, like, why aren't you pursuing this? And he just said that, I don't know, I just feel like there's so many people that do it better than I do, and like, this is just not as good as them. And I would just be like, okay, well, those people that you're comparing your work to are professionals who have gone to school to study this and who have worked years on years to perfect their craft. But keep in mind that the work that you're seeing from them now is not how their work was before. I'm pretty sure if you looked at their initial few videos or their initial vlog or their initial project, it's not at the same caliber as their work is now. But you do need to put yourself out there in order to improve and to see that change, because you start off somewhere, and if you just focus on a little bit of growth each time, you'll notice like an exponential amount of growth from your first video to like your 100th. And that's exactly where we're trying to get. And when it comes to, again, criticism, just like Theodore Roosevelt's quote said, it's not the critic who counts, it's the person who's in the arena fighting. Because it is so much easier to point fingers when you're not in the game. But to play the game is hard. That takes courage. How do you gain the confidence to put yourself out there? You know, I just think it's helpful to know why you're doing something. There's this really great TED Talk by Simon Sinek that I love called, like, it's all about the power of why. And it talks about having this purpose. And, you know, for me, the greater purpose here is sharing some of the thoughts and some of the wisdom that I feel like I encounter in my day-to-day life. I am genuinely so inspired by the words of other people. It is remarkable to me how much knowledge and how much we can learn from others. And that's something I strive to do in my day-to-day life. And I hope that I can share that with you through this through this form of media, and even, like I mentioned earlier, have this as a reference for myself, so that if I need a reminder, if I need a little pick-me-up, I can just watch this and kind of get that reminder, like, oh yeah, take risks, put yourself out there. And that's my greater purpose, and that trumps everything else that may stand in the way of that. Similarly, you know, I think it's just about knowing your why. If you genuinely enjoy something like photography, just start putting your work out there and see what happens. Maybe people will accept it, maybe they won't, but you know you've done your part. I think it's also important to not tie your self-worth to whatever project you're working on. Like, you know, for example, suppose you put a video out there and it gets trolled on very heavily, and like it doesn't do as well as you anticipated. Don't let that define who you are. That is your work. You put it out there, you tried your best, and now you learn from it, and then you can do something better the next time. But also, it also works in reverse. Do not let the positive feedback get to your head, because that can also lead to pressure. Like, if one of your videos, like for example, suppose one of your videos goes viral and you're like, oh my God, how do I get this again? How do I get this again? And you put this pressure on yourself to deliver that same thing again and psych yourself out in some way in that process, that is also not good. So just remember, you know, this is your work, this is what you're doing for whatever reason, but do not tie who you are to that. This book is so good, guys. There's a lot of these topics that are addressed in here. Let me see. Okay, there's two things I want to read to you from here. Okay, so the first one, going back to Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech, I also learned that the people who love me, the people I really depend on, were never the critics who were pointing at me while I stumbled. They weren't in the bleachers at all. They were with me in the arena, fighting for me and with me. Nothing has transformed my life more than realizing that it's a waste of time to evaluate my worthiness by weighing the reaction of the people in the stands. The people who love me and will be there regardless of the outcome are within arm's reach. This is just so good. And then one more. When we dare greatly, we will err and we will come up short again and again. There will be failures and mistakes and criticism. If we want to be able to move through the difficult disappointments, the hurt feelings, and the heartbreaks that are inevitable in a fully lived life, we cannot equate defeat with being unworthy of love, belonging, and joy. If we do, we'll never show up and try again. Shame resilience is the ability to say, this hurts, this is disappointing, maybe even devastating. But success and recognition and approval are not the values that drive me. My value is courage, and I was just courageous. You can move on, shame. And I think one of the things that can be very scary is that fear of failure. I think we all have this deep-rooted fear of failure, and yeah, failure hurts. Failure in anything hurts. When you are rejected, when you know, whether that's in a job setting, an academic setting, a relationship setting, it hurts. It's not easy, but you learn so much more through failure and in going through failure than you do through successes. Like, successes and wins are great, right? They're great positive reinforcement and rewards for your hard work, but it is when you stumble and it is when you fall and try to find the way to get back up that you learn so much more about yourself, you learn so much more about other people, and you learn lessons that you can carry with you as you go through life. I do a lot of self-development programs, and I'm currently doing one, like I'm in the middle of one, and one of the bits of advice, or one of the pieces of advice that they gave in that was, try to change your mindset or your perception of failure. And here is one exercise that you can do to help with that. Anytime something doesn't go the way that you want, right? Suppose one of your businesses failed, or you're going through a breakup or whatever. Try to, instead of, you know, letting that weigh you down, or, you know, put yourself like in this cycle of like, why me? Why did this happen? And like, just, you know, going through that cycle over and over again, try to write down what that experience taught you and what you learned from that experience so that you can be better going forward. It is through those times where, you know, we're challenged or we don't get something that we want, that we try extra hard to figure out, okay, why didn't this work? What can I do differently? What can I learn from this? And you can become a better version of you. And all of these little incremental changes that you do to become better change you, and just, you know, you level up so hard. I kid you not. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through life with what other people think of me. I just feel like that's just no way to exist, to walk on eggshells, to constantly be dictating your actions depending on what other people will think or feel or say. That's not freedom. Freedom is doing what you want and following your dreams and stumbling and falling, but also learning each time, getting better and improving. And that is where true growth will happen. Again, bringing it back to my pageant journey, I feel like there's so many lessons I learned from that. But basically, I got 4th runner-up my first pageant, did not even place my second pageant, and I won my third pageant, like my third time at Miss New Jersey USA. So the first time, which was at Miss New Jersey Teen, I got 4th runner-up. that gave me the incentive to try again. The second year I didn't even place. If I had placed that year, I don't know if I would have had it in me to try to win the next year. But not placing my second year it gave me just the amount of motivation I needed to be like, okay, clearly I messed up. There was something wrong with my strategy. What can I learn from this? How can I improve? But you can watch my TED Talk if you want to learn more about my whole journey through the pageant. But the journey that I went on the year before I won transformed me in so many ways. It made me so sure of who I was and what I stood for. And I grew my confidence. I grew mentally in so many ways. That is what helped me win the year I won. It takes courage to put yourself out there. And that's what I want to leave this on. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little podcast, and stay tuned for season 2, episode 2 coming out very soon. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts and any tips you have for overcoming the fear of putting yourself out there, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel right there, right? It's over there. Take care and we'll chat again soon. Bye.